everybody can hear. Will Christians see the Antichrist? Yes, I believe that they will. Absolutely believe they will. I believe that's the intent. And I'm going to say this, like I said, don't want to offend anybody's religious beliefs, not at all, but I believe that the tribulation is to purify the Christians, to get them prepared to meet God. It's not about God's wrath and judgment. God's wrath and judgment comes later, during the day of the Lord. That's when He punishes the wicked. If you'll go read all of the things, and I'm not going to kick this too much, I'm just going to mention this. If you'll read all the things that happen in the Great Tribulation, it's not God involved at all. It's man's inhumanity to man. It has nothing to do with God. Now later on, God comes on the scene and cleans the wicked up. Takes out the trash, I call it. And He's going to take that, He's going to do that very well. He's going to do a clean sweep of the wicked on this earth. And then He's going to turn it back over to us, where it rightfully belongs. So, we're going to win. But my question is during that period of time, and it's not going to last all that long, it's going to last a few years. But what are we going to do during those few years, folks? Now, the economy, I believe, will crash. Absolutely, it's intended for it to crash. And I believe it's going to stay down for a couple of years, and we're going to see some really, really tough times. And when it reemerges, you're going to have to take the chip to participate in commerce. That's what we refer to as the mark of the beast. And whatever form it takes, I believe it'll be a requirement for you to participate in their commercial system. The New World Order will consume the entire markets of the entire earth. All of the commerce will be run through that system, except for one, and that's the barter system among God's people. That system will not be affected by commerce because we won't need commerce. We won't be involved in their commerce. And I believe that is represented by the clay that is mingled with the 10 toes of iron. And I believe that's who we will be. And I believe as a result of these bartering communities that the New World Order will never totally take control. I believe that we're going to cause the weakness in that order, and it's not going to last very long. And if you'll read in Revelations about it, you'll see that it doesn't last very long. They start losing control really quickly. So we believe that they're going to be like what I call a dog chasing its tail. I think you're going to see a lot of this New World Order, that these governments are going to be confused. They're going to be trying to stay alive. They're going to try to be able to keep things going. And they're not really going to be concerned with folks, I don't think, that are out there minding their own business and staying out of their way, because they're just not going to have the resources. There is no plan that they can execute in this country to provide the needs of everybody here in this nation. It does not exist. If you think FEMA can meet the needs of you and your community, or they plan to meet the needs of you and your community, for you and your family and your community, you're badly mistaken. It's not their responsibility, and they're not going to do it anyway. That's right. It's our responsibility. That's exactly right. It's our responsibility to take care of our own families, and I think that we should use a little bit of wisdom and make some preparations for your family. Now, what are some things we can do? Everybody needs food, but you've got to have non-perishable food, because what happens if you need to store it without outside of refrigeration? Unless you got a humongous refrigerator, you can't keep enough stuff frozen or refrigerated to last a long time, can you? Take an awful big one. So you got to have dry storage items, and one of the best that I found is called hard red winter wheat. Is one of the best, and we think that you may be inclined to do the same, because hard red winter wheat has 17 different vitamins and minerals and amino acids, and it's almost a complete food where you can almost live on it. Along with whatever else you can come up with, you can make a healthy diet of it. We would be much healthier than we are now if we would eat it now. Most of us eat pretty bad, and that would really help you today if we ate more of it. And I eat whole wheat. Actually, I know how to make my own Ezekiel bread. I like Ezekiel bread. And we need to learn to eat more healthy anyway, and we're going to have an opportunity to do that, I think, in the near future. But you need some dry goods. You need some whole grains. You need some stuff. There's a couple of places around. One is called Breadbeckers, BreadBeckers. Another one is WaltonFeed.com. You can go on there and look at their online menu, online catalog. Both of those sites have online catalogs, and they pack a very good product. And so you need to think about some of the things that you need. Stop and think about how much you eat. Now, I'll give you a rule of thumb. If you're going to base most of your diet on whole grains, you need to put up about 300 pounds per year per person is the standard. About 300 pounds per year per person is about the standard for that. And that'll give you a pretty basic, healthy diet. And that includes grains, whole grains, beans, that sort of thing, dried goods, and along with whatever kind of vegetables you can grow. And I think you need to learn about organic gardening. I think you need to start making preparation to do some. Also, you need to be concerned about seeds. You can't go down to Walmart and buy the hybrid seeds and replant them every year. You need to get heirloom seeds. Heirloom seeds, you can save the seeds and plant a new crop. And it's going to be important to do that. So make sure you go study about heirloom seeds and how to save them, how to preserve them. There's a good book out there called Seed to Seed. It's a real short read. It's a very simple book called Seed to Seed that is a very good expose on how to save seeds and some of the things that you want to do in order to save them properly. And so there's a lot of reference materials out there. Now, I learned that heirloom seeds can be found in your local co-op. Right now is a real good time to buy them because the new batches of seeds just came out, and you can buy them for a lot cheaper. Go online and research heirloom varieties. Heirloom varieties are the same no matter where you find them. If you got a little a co-op down there, they sell them and they don't even know what they are. It's just all they know is this is the vegetables that has been planted for generations. And you'll find that they're a lot cheaper. I bought a bunch of them up in Iowa here last year, last fall, for a pound. Pound bags were like $7 or $8, $10 for a pound of seeds. That is a lot of seeds. Now, you go online to these heirloom seed companies, you're going to pay that much for an ounce. Or probably not even an ounce. I've seen them sell 25 seeds for like $3.50. But you can go research the heirloom varieties, and heirloom varieties are the same. You go down to your local co-op and buy them right there by the pound and save yourself tons of money. You'll be surprised how many of them they carry at these local co-ops because it's what people have been planting forever. They're real popular and they come back and buy them every year and been doing it for generations. Their great-grandparents and their grandparents and before them bought it. And they keep going and doing that. There's a good source of gardening information called Square Foot Gardening on the internet that you can go how to grow in a small space in small containers and grow a lot of food. Very interesting site. You might want to check that out. If you live in the city, move. Just kidding. Just kidding, but I would be concerned about it if I lived too close to a city. I really would. If you do live in a city, you might want to make some alliances with people out in the country and start putting some of these cities of refuge together. There are people in this room that have the resources to do it. There are probably people in this room that live on old abandoned farms that have been shut down because of the economy over the years. A lot of old farms have been just, the folks have got old and retired, the kids moved off, took jobs in town. There's a lot of that goes on, and they don't have anybody out there to help tend the thing. If you're within driving distance, it would be a good weekend project for you to go out there and start doing some things. There are a lot of people that would love to have the company. I'd love to have the help around the place and get it fixed up and sit down with an agreement. I'm going to help you do this, but when things get bad, I want to be able to come out there and live and bring my family. Think about these things. There's a lot of people that you could do that with. I know at my place, I have tried to get people. And I finally got a few people, but you couldn't get people interested. They wouldn't come out. I got 46 acres, beautiful land. Nobody to work it. But finally got some people, and they're doing a great job. Trying to get ready put in some organic greenhouses. We're putting in animals now. And we're going to put in our own butcher shop and the canning kitchen, and all that stuff is going in. That's what we're doing. And that's where all of the money that we collect from the sales of the videos and the silver dollars that y'all bring, all of it goes to those projects. And almost everything else I can rank is great. But anyway, but we're sincere about this stuff. I'm not just talking a bunch of trash. I'm telling you what I'm doing. Because I believe that we need to look out for not just our four and no more. We need to get that mentality that we're going to help our neighbors. Because when this time comes, if you can share something to eat with your neighbors, you can also share the gospel of Christ, and they'll see that you have what you've been talking about all those years. Because you're willing to help them in a difficult time. And that's the time that you share about Christ. And it's going to be a great time of evangelism during that time, if you're prepared. But what are you going to be prepared, or are you going to be one of the ones with your hand out? Which side do you want to be on? So just ask yourself, are you and your family prepared? And think about the things you use every day. What about soap and toilet paper? I tell some people I'll go store soap and toilet paper, and I'll be able to trade that for anything. One guy, he was saying, I figured out the perfect thing to save, to put up for trading, for bartering goods. I said, what's that? He said, pints of whiskey. He said, you'll be able to get anything with a pint of whiskey. He had a point, though. Probably can. But anyway, we're going to talk about the bankruptcy of the United States. When did the bankruptcy of the United States happen? How about 1791? Yeah, 1791. We started off in bankruptcy. In 1791, we owed France the farm because they financed the Revolutionary War for us because we didn't have any money. So they helped us. They helped supply what we needed for our armies to win the Revolutionary War. And so France was our creditor. We were the debtor in the bankruptcy. Now, bankruptcy only lasts for 70 years. After 70 years, it has to be reorganized. And so a number of things happen during reorganization. The currency changes. A lot of times you have failures of business in the stock market, fluctuations, and in some cases it collapses. A lot of financial things go on during a reorganization. Now, so add 70 years to 1791, and what do you come up with? Okay, 1861. Now, 1861 was what was significant about that year? The War of Northern Aggression. And it was all about slavery, right? No, but I'll tell you what it was about. It was about a reorganization of the bankruptcy. The northern states didn't have enough collateral, and they needed the collateral of the public lands down in the southern states, and the southern states said, no, you're not going to mortgage our states. So Abraham Lincoln decided, yeah, we're going to mortgage your states if we have to take them away from you, and so they advanced down here and did just exactly that. And at the end of the Civil War, they put it up for collateral and reorganized and started a new bankruptcy. Add 70 years to 1861. What do you come up with? 1931. What happened in the 1930s, late 20s and early 30s? We had Great Depression. We had the New Deal, chicken in every pot. What else did we get? We got a set of laws during that 1930s, from 1933 particularly, from 33 to 38, that put our country into total socialism. They also removed us from the gold standard. Our money was no longer backed with gold. And we created a national currency. But what happened in 1929? It started this stock market crashed. Now, why did the stock market crash, though? Absolutely. The bankers looked at it and said, these folks over here are getting a little too wealthy. Remember the roaring 20s, where everybody had plenty of money? Remember all that? Man, everybody was prosperous in the 20s. Man, the whole world. The farmers they couldn't plant enough land. They were selling the crops so fast they didn't have time for them to grow. They had orders and getting big money for them too. And the farmers became very prosperous. And as a result, the industry grew in our country. And all of a sudden, everybody was wealthy almost, or middle class. Anybody wanted to work had a job. They were making decent wages. Everybody had what they wanted. And society would think life was good. But in 1921, too many people had invested in the stock market. And it was really doing great. And all of a sudden, several of the principals that controlled the stocks in the stock market decided, if we just pulled our money out, I wonder what would happen. And so they did. And the stock market dropped 90% in just a matter of days. Well, when the stock market dropped 90% in just a matter of days, the price fell to 10 cents on the dollar. And all of these guys held their money for just a little while, and then right in the nick of time, they went and bought the stock back. But this time they bought 9 times as much as they had. So they just increased their wealth. It was a transfer of wealth. Okay? But what about all these little mom and pop businesses that went under as a result? Well, that was even better, because they went out to the big corporations with all this wealth now that they had, went out and bought their land. For 10 cents on the dollar or less. They bought land everywhere. And in later years that came into play and enriched them too as well. So it was a transference of wealth. Okay, add 70 years to 1931. (2001). What happened in 2001? 9/11. Homeland Security followed soon after. And what I call the raw deal. Homeland Security was a raw deal. The Patriot Act was a raw deal. We had a reorganization, and we're in a reorganization now, and we're in a transference of wealth. Your wealth has been transferred to those, again, the same group that got it twice before, the same people. It's just their offspring. Same companies control it, the same families control it, and they have taken the wealth of the American people. We got a little too rich. And when you get a little too rich, you get a little too unruly. When you get a little too wealthy, you get a little too much time on your hand, and God forbid, you might start thinking. And if we get time to think, we're dangerous. So they had to stop that. Too much leisure time. So they had to reduce your property values, cause you to lose your homes, take them, cause you to have to work 2 jobs just to make ends meet and keep groceries on the table. And the international bankers are the ones doing it all. They're running the show behind the scenes and using your Congress to do it. Now, in 1931, they took the gold standard away. And they put us on a paper money. And they took away the silver and gold. And they made it illegal to own it. under threat of going to prison and a big fine. Couldn't have gold. It was illegal. At least that's what they told us. So everybody ran down to the Federal Reserve and they turned the gold in, right? Sure they did. I know all of y'all did, or I'm sure your grandparents did. The problem with my grandparents was they didn't have any gold. But they also didn't notice there was a depression either. When I asked my grandpa about the depression, he said, we really didn't notice it. I said, why is that? He said, we did the same thing. We didn't have any money to start with. That's what he said. So we didn't miss that part of it. He said, we worked in the seafood industry and we produced a product. He said, we did have a little trouble getting some items. He said, but we bartered for whatever we had like we always have done, so we didn't notice any difference. We grew gardens. We had seafood. They ate like kings during the Depression. Still eat like kings. Because they were commercial fishermen. Because they were producing a food source. And like I said, they didn't miss the money because they didn't have none anyway. For the most part, during the Depression, nobody had any. Except the very, very ultra rich. And so they lived right through it and hardly had a problem at all. That's why we need to get close to the earth. So we can do the same thing, because in the next depression we might not miss it. We might not notice either. I mean, surely it's going to change your lifestyle somewhat. But you can manage. Heck, I look forward to the time things slowing down so I can actually sit on my farm and watch the grass grow or watch the corn grow. That'd be nice. Hadn't done that in a long time. Life is too busy. Hadn't sat down and had a cup of coffee with one of my neighbors in 2 years. Of course, I hadn't been home in 2 years. Almost. Very little. But it would be nice if life would slow down, the pace would slow down. So if you're prepared for this, it could be a good thing. In a lot of ways, there's a lot of good could come from it. But the bankruptcy of the United States was manipulated. Now, in the Civil War time, the property was mortgaged to the southern states. In the 1930s, private property was mortgaged. That means your house, your land, the infrastructure of the nation, the public parks, the freeways and the seaports and every part of this country, the minerals and the water, even the water. That's something they just did recently. During that reorganization, they mortgaged everything. But they also did something else. They mortgaged your productivity, the labor that you were able to produce. They mortgaged that as well, and that was represented by a birth certificate that they actually sold. They put into the market and sold. A birth certificate. How many of you really looked at your birth certificate? It's on a bond. It is a bond. You are bonded. And those things are invested. And these bonds are out there making money for the government. Well, why aren't they making money for us? Well, don't know. Maybe because we didn't tell them we wanted it to do that. Back to that ignorant thing. Who owes the national debt? The citizens of the corporation owe the national debt. They owe the debt. Do the secured parties of America owe the national debt? No, they don't. Which one do you want to be? Well, I do. I am a secured party, and I'm going to stay that way. And when they recalled the gold and changed our standard, we went fully into the Federal Reserve System. We were already in it, but we went fully into it in the 1930s. And the Federal Reserve System started handling our money. But where is the backing for the Federal Reserve? Full faith and credit. It's backed by your wealth and your assets. And back in the early days when the Secretary of the Treasury needed money and they ran out of their tax base and had to borrow money, they'd just go down to the Fed chairman and say, listen, I need some money. And he said, okay, how much you need? Well, $5 billion or whatever it was. And he would take a checkbook out of his checkbook and he would write a check for $5 billion to the United States Treasury and make them a loan. And they go deposited and write checks on that. We also submitted bonds, gold bonds, on full faith and credit of the United States to back that loan. And so this is how the Federal Reserve System, there's only one problem with that system though. The checkbook that they used to use to write the checks from didn't have an account. It was just a checkbook. It was hypothetical. It didn't exist. There was no wealth behind it whatsoever. So this whole thing with the Federal Reserve and the national debt is nothing but a farce on the American people. It's a total and complete farce. The system that we are working under today is nothing more than a credit-debit system. That's all it has ever been. Most people here have never had money. You've never had money in your life. This is money. This is money. Not Federal Reserve notes. This is a credit note. I mean, somebody owes me $100. Man, $100, Billy Ray must have been good to me last week. But that is not money. However, this is real money. Got that in gold, and I got a gold piece somewhere running around. I'll find it. But the bottom line is that most of us have worked our whole lives and have never been paid for it. Everything that we have earned, everything that we have bought belongs to the corporation, including ourselves, has been mortgaged. And they have title to everything. Have you ever laid a birth certificate down next to a car title and looked at them? Are they a lot similar? They are a lot similar. Look at them. Probably be interested. Yeah, what make and model are you? The bottom line is, though, is that all of these are securities and they have value. Now, I'm going to show you something about money that you might find interesting. Some of you have heard this before, but you might want to pay attention to this. Okay, why do you pay taxes? Because of inflation on Federal Reserve notes. That's the only reason, and I'm going to prove that to you. Okay? Now, y'all went out this week and y'all bought me, were kind enough, many of you, brought me a silver dollar, didn't you? That was mighty nice of you. I appreciate that. It's not going to go to me, but it's going to go to the project. So the Lord will bless you for your donation. Because it's going to bless His people, believe me. Okay. How many Federal Reserve notes does it take to buy one of these now, since you just went out and purchased one? $16 to $20, roughly. Okay. Yeah. Pay $17.50 in all different ranges, and it depends on where you bought it. But let's say, just for easy math, say it's $20. Now, just because it's hard for me to add and subtract them odd figures. So let's just say, for instance, for sake of that these are worth $20, because it's pretty close to that anyway. By the end of the year, probably a lot more than that, probably 40, the way things look. But the bottom line is okay, I go out there and say you've got a job and you make $50,000 a year, or $1,000 a week. Let's just say you make $1,000 a week. And I know that's not much money for you guys. Y'all make a lot more money than that around here. In Alabama, it's not bad. But in Texas, y'all got everything's bigger in Texas, so y'all make big money. But let's just say you work your job and you make $50,000 a year, and that's you can live on that. Most people can. If you've got a husband and wife working, that's $100,000 a year. You know, you can live on that. What's your taxes on that? Say $50,000. About $18,000. Okay, roughly. That's pretty good average. Okay, now if you're paying $18,000 in taxes a year on that, okay, what if you made $250 an hour instead? How many of you have your own private businesses? Well, that's good. That's good. What if you contracted for silver instead at $250 an hour, which is equal to the same thing as $50 roughly, if you figure $20 per. Now you got to do the math. I'm trying to give you the concept. Okay. Now, if you go out and you work and you do a private contract for silver and you make $2.50 an hour, how much is that a week? $100. How much is your tax liability on $100 a week? Zero, because you don't make the minimum to file. Okay, so now if you get paid in silver dollars, okay, instead of Federal Reserve notes on a private contract, and say you can't pay your bills with silver because nobody can take silver because it's out. Remember, it was outlawed by HJR 192. Can't demand silver for payment. Okay. And you got to go back to these and convert it to these so you can pay your debts. So then you have to go trade the silver in, right? And convert it back to Federal Reserve notes. I got a guy that does this. His employees that work for him, he pays them $40 silver dollars a week. They come in, they've got a private contract, and over here he counts them out 40 silver dollars over here, and then they go over to his wife over here at the cash register over there, and she converts them back to Federal Reserve notes. Is that a taxable event? No. It's a private contract. Now they love it because they don't have to pay taxes. He gave his employees a 25% across the board raise because they don't have to pay the tax. And they love it. And they wouldn't go back to the old system. And they even get to keep some of the silver dollars. Oh, I'm out of the box again. Sorry. I'm out of the box. Excuse me. Pardon me, Mr. Camera. Okay.
Nothing personal.
Nothing personal. I've been out of the box all my life. I told folks, my grandmother did tell me this when I was a kid. She said, you know, you were different. She says, of all my grandkids, you were different. You always were different. I said, well, how was I different, Grandma? She said, well, she said, when you were just a little fella, we put you in the crib, you'd crawl out and land on the hardwood floor on your head. And they said, we'd put you back in the crib and you'd do it again. And we couldn't keep you in there, tie you, put something over the top and tie it down, keep you from doing that. And she said, that wasn't what worried us. She said, but when you fell on your head, you acted like you liked it, and that's what worried us. She said, so you've always been a little different. So, but anyway, so you see, now what if you're in real estate? Anybody sell real estate here? Good. What if you sold contracts? What if you sold land instead for silver and gold, or gold primarily? I don't have my gold piece. I usually have it, but I left it in my luggage. These $50 gold pieces, what are they worth? About $900 roughly, $850, something like that right now. I don't know. It came down a little bit. But if you say for instance you had a contract on a piece of property, a $250,000 piece of property, and you wanted to sell it, say you paid $100,000 for it 10 years ago and you want to sell it and you got $150,000 profit, what would your capital gains be on that? on 150,000 capital gain, what would your taxes be? 45,000. Okay, $45,000 in taxes. Okay, what if you sold that on a contract for gold instead? Actually, okay, how much would it be in gold? And let's just do it easy. Let's say that a $50 gold piece is worth $1,000. Just make it easy. I know it's not exactly right, but say it is. Okay, okay, that would be what, 150 gold pieces times $50? Okay, what would your tax liability be on that? What's 150 times 50? $7,500. Now, if you paid $100,000 for it and you sold it for $7,500, you get a tax write-off. It's completely legal, by the way. You're not violating any laws. You can take your gold back down to the gold and coin and bullion dealer and trade it in for Fed notes if you want to. That's a private contract, and that's not taxable either. The bottom line is you're paying taxes because you're not using your money right. Now, you can get a gold and coin dealer, a bullion dealer, that can do these deals and set them up for you and close at the table with actual gold. They pay them 3 to 5%. It's still a lot cheaper than capital gains. And they like it, and you'd like it too. Build some relationships with these people, and you can do that. Now, what would happen in a community? Do you know how they assess your property values? You don't know where I'm going with that, don't you? What if you started selling properties for $15,000 instead of $250,000 now? And all over your community, you started selling for $15,000, and it's recorded down in the courthouse. And everybody in your community started selling their property for $15,000 in gold. You'd have a pretty good case to get a real renegotiation on your property taxes, I think, because they would have to do another assessment, because your taxes are assessed on what the sales of the property in your area is. You think that might be something that you could do? Yeah. You think there might be some things that you could put to use here? Could save you a lot in property taxes. Could save you a lot in income tax. Now, I don't really care about income tax because I pay them. I paid about $50 million last year. I don't really care how much I give. The IRS is my friend. And I'm going to pay them whatever they want. They send me a bill for $10,000, I'm going to send them $10 million. And tell them, have a Merry Christmas. And I don't care what they do with it. Oh, yeah, sure I do. I file tax returns, or my straw man does. Yeah, please, I forget. The bottom line is you got to learn to use your money right. Use it properly. Make it work for you instead of you working for it. The Interstate Commerce Act of 1887 gave private entities the power to use the federal government to create laws that would enrich private corporations. We talked about that this morning, remember? How do they enrich themselves? By passing laws that require you to do things like put seat belts in your car. Well, who do you think built the seat belts? There's a company providing that service. I've always wanted to know who made these mile markers. I wonder what senator owns that company. You ever thought about how many mile markers are? Now they're going down to quarter and tenths and eighths and all this kind of stuff. All over, everywhere. How many mile markers, for God's sake, are there in this country? I can tell you there's a bunch of them. I'd like to have that contract, wouldn't you? Somebody making out like a bandit. And they do this stuff. They pass a law, we need mile markers. Well, it's nice to have them, but you could have one every 5 miles. But we got them, and down in some areas, I've seen them go down to 1/10 of a mile. Somebody's making money off of you, buddy. That's your tax money at work. What about all these fences that you see around government property. What about the big fence in Mexico? What was crazy is they went right up to one of the main places where they cross and they stopped it. They didn't want to block traffic. I mean, you go down and look at it, it's there. I saw it the other day. I said, darn, I thought they was putting a fence up down here. And they did, right to the main thoroughfares, and then they quit. I would like to know what congressman owns that company. Because the truth is that's what goes on. They go in there and they pass these laws so they can make money, and they make a lot of it, and then they set up companies over here so they can enrich themselves and their families and their friends. And that's exactly how the government takes your money. We the people are considered commercial merchants simply because we use Federal Reserve notes, promissory notes, and checks. This makes us responsible for the laws of equity in today's courts. On March 18, 1968, the laws were changed to make Federal Reserve notes legal tender instead of lawful money. That meant there was absolutely nothing except full faith and credit back in these notes. They're worthless. One fellow was talking, I like the way he said it, he said the federal government was the only entity that could take perfectly good ink and paper and make it worthless. That's about true. They've just about done that. We have no money. You have never had any money. I want to ask you a question. I'm getting out of the box again. You got to watch me. Whenever you go to work all week and you get a paycheck from the corporation or whoever it is you work, or if you get paid in Federal Reserve notes, and you run down to your bank and you put those in the bank, and then you turn around and do what? You either draw cashier's checks, money orders, or write checks on that account and discharge your bills, right? Can't pay them because there's nothing of substance there to pay them with. At what point in that process have you had any money? You've never had money. You've been doing the same process that I'm going to teach you about all of your life. You just didn't recognize it. The bonds and notes, it's the same thing. You know what a bonded promissory note is? It's a check. And it's on the same par value as a Federal Reserve note. Now, most places in America still take Federal Reserve notes. There are a few places that won't. And there are places in New York won't take them. Yeah. There's some places in Texas don't want them. Down on the border. They don't like them either. A lot of people are shying away from Federal Reserve notes. The Saudis won't take them anymore. The big oil companies have what's called an oil dollar. A petrol dollar, they call it. They don't use Federal Reserve notes anymore. It hasn't happened in quite some time because it's weak, subject to collapse. So they don't use Federal Reserve notes for currency. They take petrol dollars, which is another type of currency me and you don't have. I wonder if we'll go down to the bank if we could get one. I doubt it. Probably wouldn't even know what you were talking about. But they trade in a different currency than we trade in because they don't trust the Federal Reserve note. The Chinese just started accepting Ameros instead of dollars. And this is changing worldwide. Now, we talked about all the reorganization. We're going to get a new core currency in this process. When the economy collapses, when it comes back up, it will be with a new currency. And expect it. I believe it's going to happen. We've already talked about that section. The wealth of the American people, where does it lie? Well, in reality, we own this nation. We own the land. I mean, I know they've got it mortgaged, but we still have it. We still own it. Yes, it's a fraud. But we still own the nation. We still own the natural resources. We still own the timber. We still own the water. We still own the parks and recreation. We still own the highways. We still own the seaports. In reality, we do, even though we've been mortgaged. But the wealth of the American people is in our productivity as well. We're a very industrious group of people. If you give us an incentive and give us an opportunity to work, we will build a great nation. We've already proven that. We built the greatest nation on earth. And now, the thieves are stealing it from us. But when we reestablish the republic, which is coming soon, we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But when we reestablish the republic, we're going to reestablish an industrial base in America. The real wealth of America is ideas. The real wealth of America is our productivity. The real wealth of America is the food that we grow in the Midwest. The real wealth of America is the industry that we can create. Several years ago, they started running us into what's called a service-based economy, where we didn't build anything anymore. They made the law difficult. This was done intentionally, by the way, to bring you to where you're at today. This was absolutely done on purpose. It was a plan to bring the American people under subjection to this New World Order. Every agreement, remember the NAFTA, the CAFTA, the North American Union, all of these agreements did what? They removed industry from America and sent it to foreign countries. That's what they all had in common. Because industry was what made us wealthy. And industry was what made us strong and not so dependent on others. So they had to remove industry to bring us to where we're at today, where there aren't any good paying jobs. Your children have no future. Did you know that? There's no industry in this country anymore. We are at the mercy of other nations. And other nations that don't like us are going to put the squeeze on this country. And they really don't care if you starve to death in a lot of countries. They don't like you to start with. There's a lot of people out there that would like to kill us all off and move over here and take this land. Because it's a blessed land, and they know that. They don't understand that when they take it, it's not going to be blessed anymore. They don't understand that because it's God that blessed the land. And when they do away with Him, the blessings are going to go with Him. But we have been collateralized. Us and our properties have been collateralized, and our effort, our productivity has been collateralized for the national debt. And as a result, I just read to you earlier, the books have to balance. And that means whenever they gave us a debt, they had to also create a credit somewhere to offset that debt. And that credit was created in the United States Treasury. When was the Treasury created? It was created in 1789. The Department of Treasury has been around a long time. I want to show you something. This is a contract, by the way. I just want to show you a couple of things. Real interesting. You got a new $10 bill in your pocket. Pass it forward. Thank you very much. I'll keep it. No, I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding. Take it out and look at it if you've got one. For those in the back who can't see it, this is a new $10 bill. 20 is the same. You can do it on 20. I'm going to show you something about this. This is the new 20 with the gold leaf on it, right here. The 10s and 20s have it. The 5s, I think, might have it too. But I know the 10s and 20s do. Y'all digging up that old money. I know what y'all doing. Yeah, that's old stuff. Y'all hid that years ago, and y'all digging it back out. But anyway, how many of you got a new one so you can look at? All right. Well, y'all can pass it around. I'll even pass this one around, but I want to get it back. Let you see. But if you'll notice, this is evidence of the contract. Right here. Okay. If you'll look, this is the debtor side of the ledger, left side. That's the debtor side of the ledger. Okay, what's there? The Federal Reserve. That symbol right there says Federal Reserve. It's in black. Ought to be in red. But it's black. Federal Reserve represented on this side, the debtor side of the ledger. But on the creditor side of the ledger, what is that right there, that little green seal? That's the Department of the Treasury. And look at something else. And I know this is just, probably doesn't mean anything, but it's there. Over here it says, we the people. On this side. Do y'all see that? It says, we the people, right here. It doesn't say it over here, though. Right here. See that? Right here. In the background it says, we the people.
Oh, in the back, yeah, I see it.
Yeah. It says, we the people over here on the creditor side. But one of the most interesting things that I've noticed lately is that on this side it has a tin in gold leaf, which represents gold or wealth. Now, on this side it's not there. Why is that? It's because that there is no value over here. This is the debt. Represents the debt. And this represents the U.S. citizens. This side represents the creditors, secured party creditors of this nation, that have actual tangible wealth. That's a contract. That's what it is. Look at it. Y'all pass this around and look at it if you want to. Just make sure I get it back. Don't make me get my chainsaw out. Okay. All right. But look at the symbolism on that. They're telling us everything they do is in plain sight. Realize that it's in plain sight. They didn't hide a thing from us. We just didn't recognize it. It's all right there in front of you, in plain, in black and white. Lack of knowledge. But look at that and just see what I'm talking about. We the people are on the side of the Treasury, and the gold leaf is on the side of the Treasury, but it's not on the Federal Reserve side because there's no value there. There is nothing. It's hypothetical wealth. The Treasury has real wealth because it's backed by your assets and my assets. The Department of the Treasury has real wealth. Now, a lot of people say, well, what are you going to do about the debt of the nation when you restore the republic? The American secured party creditors have at least $118 trillion in foreign bank accounts across the world. At least that much. That's more than enough to discharge all of our debts and support industry in this nation and reinstitute an industrial-based economy. We've got the wealth, and we can do that without charging taxes probably for 100 years in this nation. As far as an income tax, we don't need an income tax. Everybody that thinks you need an income tax, what did we do before 1913? We didn't have any before that, and we prospered. Yeah, we prospered. Prospered up to that point more than we ever have. Yeah, we did. We were one of the strongest nations in the world in that point. They pay $47 million an hour? That don't make sense, folks. That don't make sense. Why would we do that? It's insanity. Insanity. What's that?
More of that fraud.
More of the fraud. We've been lied to and lied to and lied to. Don't believe it anymore. But anyway, the bottom line is this. We have value in our treasury. That value belongs to the secured party creditors. They call them American secured party creditors. Or American secured parties. That's their term. But the American secured parties own the wealth of the nation and the credit that is represented to offset the debt that is created by the Federal Reserve. So the question is, if that credit is there and Congress says that they have to use it to discharge our debts, then how do we do that? Well, that's what we're going to teach you, step by step. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about that, step by step, how to do it. Now, the Department of Human Resources is the department that takes and handles your birth certificates and puts them into play. And now they've got a new word out there. If you go on the Inspector General's website, they call us human capital now. It's right on their website, right in front of plain view. They call us human capital. Because that's what we are. That's on the Inspector General of the United States Treasury. They refer to us as human capital. It's right there for you to read if you want to go look it up. But they sold our birth certificates, put them into trade, and that has been building credit all of your life. Well, that credit belongs to somebody. It was the intention when this system was created for you when you became of legal age to take it and use it. But what happened? Somebody forgot to tell us, didn't they? But that was the intent. We were supposed to use this system to offset and discharge debt from the time we came of legal age. But we didn't learn how. Somebody didn't tell us that. People in Washington knew about it. I'll guarantee their kids use it. They didn't share it with us, though, did they? But now that you know about it, do you think you might want to use it? Absolutely. I highly recommend it. I've had fun using it. Done a lot of good across this country with this system.
I have a senator buying now a $5 million property he will qualify for.
You have to go. We'll do questions and comments when we get finished.
There was a statement that in Florida there's a senator buying a property, $5 million property, and he don't qualify for it, but he's buying it.
Oh yeah, he can get whatever he wants. They know how to do it. They know how to do it. They know all about this system. But they will act like they're dumb because under the Trading with the Enemies Act, if they let you know that they know, then they can be tried and executed for treason. So you're not allowed to let us know that they know it. That's why your judges have to act stupid. Why the lawyers act stupid, but they know. But they have to act dumb. Their life is at stake if they don't. That's the Trading with the Enemies Act. They're not allowed to tell us about this process. Okay, so if there's value there, then it's held in our treasury account. How do we access that? Well, we do it the same way we've always done. We've been using bonds and notes all of our lives, but we didn't understand it. We use notes every day. If you've got a checking account, that is a note. That's a promissory note. Federal Reserve notes are promissory notes. We've been using insurance policies. Those are bonds. We've been doing all that all of our life. We just didn't understand the process. And we've been extorted and exploited and taken advantage of and lied to and cheated all of our lives out of the wealth that rightfully belongs to us. And as a result, we have to work 2 jobs to try to keep food on the table, so we stay too tired and too busy to think and learn. And that was the plan. Yeah, oh yeah. And then if you do have a little time, old Joe Sixpack, as long as he's got his six-pack in a football game, he's happy. So if you're a Joe Sixpack, wake up! And I like to go watch a football team play once in a while myself. But it doesn't rule my life. I hadn't went out and bought a car that looks like a football helmet yet. You see that commercial? Guy goes out and has his truck modified to look like a football helmet. He's got it bad. Your account is funded through your Social Security system. It's represented by that account. And we're going to show you how to take this account and put it into use. We're going to teach you first how to become a secured party. Then we're going to teach you how to establish your treasury account, and then we're going to teach you how to use the account to discharge debt. And that's what the account can be used for. You access it through notes. Now, we're going to show you all that tomorrow. We'll show you every step by step, how to do this. If you'll pay attention tomorrow, you might write down a few notes that I tell you to write down tomorrow, you will be able to do this process. You're not going to go home with a bunch of useless information that you don't know what to do with. If you'll do that, if you'll just do what I tell you to do, pay attention and make a few notes tomorrow, you will be able to do this. And you don't have to come to step B or step 2 program or a conference to get the rest of the story. I'll give you all of it tomorrow. So I just want you to know there's not going to be any of that. There's not an advanced class where you'll finally get down to where you can pay me $500 to write you a bond. That ain't going to, you're going to be able to do it yourself. And it's so easy, it's going to blow your mind. It really is that easy. But anyway, one thing I want you to understand is what can the account be used for? Can you take a bonded promissory note down and buy you a new car? Sure you can. You'll go to jail, but sure you can. And y'all thought I was going to say no, didn't you? I promise that if you take these notes and you go out there and purchase with them, and you can do it. I've seen a lot of people do it. But you will go to jail because that is not the intent. Now, it doesn't mean you can't go out and buy a car and pay a few payments on it and discharge it with a note. You can do that. Or a new house. Or a new boat. Or a new plane. You can do all that. But you've got to have the debt. And there's a lot of theories going around out here about debt. And I'm going to tell you some of the myths that's out there that get you in trouble. There's a lot of people saying that when you sign a contract, that's a debt. People tell you that, but I'm telling you, if you don't have a promissory note to show for that debt, you are violating the law. Don't sign a contract. A contract's not a debt. When you sign a promissory note, that's a debt. A contract just is an agreement for debt. So be careful when you listen to these folks. They don't get the whole story right. So be careful. And there's a lot of smart people out there, and I'm not trying to contradict what anybody says. But I've heard people talk about this that says just get a contract and go write a note for it and pay it. The contract itself is not the debt. Now you can only use this for public debt, not private debt, like person to person. This is only for public debt. This is only for discharging debt from a promissory note for like a bank, a mortgage company, a loan company, a car company, or something to that effect. Not for individual, private, between individuals. You can't write me a $100,000 promissory note and me get any benefit from it. That's illegal. But if you owe a debt that is secured by a promissory note by a company that normally loans something to the public, that is perfectly all right. Or if you have a corporation, say like a hospital that receives public funds or a public utility that receives funds, you can discharge that. No, I wouldn't say that you could do it in the future for utilities, but I'll tell you, I got a friend down in Atlanta that did. He wrote the utility company. He just ledgered them a $2 million note as an asset to the company, and they gave him lifetime electricity. Try it. Talk to your people and see. He did. Also did it to the utility companies, the water and sewer and all that. At his local city, he wrote them a note, and they gave him. They don't send him a bill anymore. So some of these things you can use, but you got to get agreements with the people that you deal with. They might accept it, they might not. You have to work those out. You have to build relationships. You have to build relationships with these people. And please don't call me and say, hey, I know this banker that might monetize a bond. I don't even want to hear that stuff anymore. I have heard that until I don't even want to hear it anymore. You don't know what the hours I've talked to people on the phone and conference calls and went to see them and go, somebody was going to monetize a bond. I don't even want to hear that stuff. Because they're not going to do it because they don't understand the rules. That doesn't mean that we can't turn these into something valuable. And we're working on some of those projects, and we'll share some of them with you. Okay? But make sure you understand, if you don't listen to anything else I tell you, you cannot purchase with these instruments. If you do, you will go to jail. They give you a free set of bracelets with every purchase. Now, the process we use is very simple. We use bonds. We use a birth certificate bond first to charge your account because it has value. The birth certificate has value. Now, we'll talk about this tomorrow in detail about the bonds. We're not going to cover that today. We're just going to do an overview. We're going to talk about charging your account, bond orders, appointing a fiduciary agent, and the forms we use. UCC, power of attorney, commercial security agreement, actual and constructive notice, hold harmless and indemnity agreement, non-negotiable security agreement, types and items of property, affidavit of service, of fiduciary appointment, notice and demand, chargeback order, IRS Form 56, IRS Form 1040V, birth certificate, bond, indemnity bond, offset bond, bonded promissory note, cover letter, and affidavit of notary presentment. We're also going to cover mailing and filing procedures, and we will provide you with names and addresses and procedures. We're going to go through this tomorrow step by step. This is very easy. If you can read where it says John Lee Doe, all capital letters, and Social Security with or without dashes, and address and all that kind of stuff, and type that in, you can do this paperwork. It's that simple. It has been formatted to where you can do just that. It's real easy to do. The biggest problem I have is with professional people such as doctors and lawyers. They overthink the process. This was designed by a dumb old country boy that just, I wanted the regular person to be able to do it. So don't overthink the process. It's there. All you got to do is plug the information in. I got a guy who's been trying to do this for 6 months. And he whines every time I talk to him. Well, I can't do, I need some help. I said, get on your computer, get off of your dead butt and do it. It's that simple. Well, I don't have any sureties. I said, come down to the seminar and I'll get you some sureties. He hadn't been. He don't want to. He just wants to whine. He's not secured party material. Simple as that. Some of you in here may not be. And that's fine. That's okay. If you just want to be a debtor to the United States and a slave, that's perfectly fine. That's your station in life, good. That's if you're happy with it. I don't think you're going to be happy with it much longer, but if you're happy with it, go for it. But I want to be a secured party. I am a secured party. And I want to participate in commerce the way it's intended to be. Now, we talk about the straw man sometimes, and I guess everybody knows who the straw man is, all capital letter name, corporation that was created for your benefit, actually. And we're going to talk about how to separate the two. Now, your straw man was created, that all capital letter name was created for you to operate in commerce with. That's why it was created. We'll talk about that tomorrow, why. But you need to learn to operate in commerce properly. Would you park your car and run down the interstate? Well, think about it. That wouldn't be very smart, would it? It wouldn't last very long unless you're real fast. Around here, they'd run you down before you got a quarter of a mile. So we wouldn't do that, would we? So why are we trying to operate in commerce without our straw man? There are a lot of these patriot groups out here that are saying, kill the straw man, kill the straw man. We don't want to kill the straw man. We want him to be alive and well in commerce. Just want to use him as a vehicle in commerce, just like you would drive your car. And that's what I want to teach you how to do. And we're going to cover that tomorrow. Now, I want to talk about the Republic a little bit if you want to do a separate take on that. Yeah, I was going to if it's okay. Okay? We're going to change the disc. We're going to do a special disc just for that, and it won't take but a few minutes. But